Want to know what's killing your productivity? It's not your morning routine, it's not your to-do list, and it's definitely not another time management hack. Here is the brutal truth. If you're working 80-hour weeks and still feeling behind, you're focusing on the wrong type of productivity entirely. And I know because I've been there. A few years ago, I was literally stuck in the same cycle as most business owners, juggling a million tasks and just feeling like the bottleneck in my own business all the time. At that point, I tried everything: fancy project management tools, complex time blocking systems, endless productivity apps, even just hiring more people. But really, nothing changed, and I was just trapped working in the business rather than working on it. And then I discovered what actually works, a secret that most business owners never figure out. This isn't your basic wake up at 5 a.m. advice. This is the exact system that's helped business owners cut their management time by 80%, reduce new hiring training from 3 months to 3 weeks, and finally start working on their business rather than getting stuck in it. So if you're ready to stop being the bottleneck and start scaling your business without working yourself into the ground, stick with me. Close every other tab, grab a notepad, and let me show you what's really possible. Let's start with the biggest productivity myth that's really keeping business owners stuck. The biggest hidden productivity killer is the action loop. Most business owners are trapped in what I like to call the action loop, racing to answer endless questions from their team, re-explaining the same processes over and over, and just constantly putting out fires and making all of the decisions themselves. It feels like you're getting things done, but really, it's just keeping you stuck. As an entrepreneur, we always want to have a bias towards action, but there is a fine line between moving forward and just being in an action loop. Now here's the kicker. Research actually shows that average business owners spend 60% of their time on low-value, repetitive tasks. Now, this can actually cost them up to $100,000 a year in lost productivity, and that's not even counting the opportunity costs of all of the other strategic and more valuable work that you could be doing. So this is why traditional productivity hacks just don't work. The real key isn't time management, it's actually about managing leverage. This is about finding ways to multiply your time and impact rather than just working more hours. If you want to break free from the action loop, then you don't need another planner or another time blocking technique. You need to shift your focus from doing more tasks to actually removing bottlenecks. Now, here is how you can do it. The key thing I like to think about here is the 4 force multiplier approach. Essentially how we can work less and achieve more. There are 4 key elements that we call the force multiplier approach, and this will completely shift how you work. Number 1 is the one-time effort rule. If you're explaining something more than once, then you're literally wasting your time. So instead, just document it once and make it a permanent resource. The second thing is the decide once framework. Believe it or not, it's about stopping you making the same decisions daily. Build decision rules in so your team can act without your approval every time you're making repetitive decisions. Number 3 is the self-solving systems. Instead of answering repetitive questions, create a step-by-step playbook so your team can find answers without you and have the guides and SOPs to do their great work. And finally, it's about automating knowledge transfer. Every time you train someone, turn it into a repeatable training system so you don't have to reteach it again. And these are your 4 force multiplier approach. And this is where the freedom framework comes in. And it's essentially a step-by-step roadblock to make these systems work for you. Now, the system that frees up your time and multiplies your impact happens in 3 different levels. Firstly, we have level 1, which is liberation. This is essentially about getting out of the action loop. At this stage, you're constantly interrupted, you're answering the same questions over and over. Now, we know that sounds familiar, so that's essentially what your productivity drain is. This first step is to essentially spot those recurring issues and document them once and for all. So here you can think about 5 most common questions that your team ask you, and now imagine never having to answer them again. That's essentially what building your core playbook will do once you put everything into your knowledge base. If you document them into a shared space, then you can now go one step further and actually just create a simple process or checklist that answers these questions. Yes, you can just answer it, but actually if you do it in a way that your team can self-serve rather than coming to you repeatedly, this will literally just remove those interruptions, free up your time for more of that strategic growth. Now, level 2 is about automation. It's about making productivity repeatable. So once you've documented those basics, the next step is actually trying to automate that as much as possible. This is where you stop repeating yourself and let those systems do the work for you. So instead of answering the same onboarding questions, create a self-service guide, and instead of approving every request manually, build the decision tree that allows your team to make the right call without you. And if something truly needs your input, then just set up an escalation protocol, so only the most important issues come your way. Now, as a really quick win here, pick one of the tasks like handling customer inquiries or your team approvals and just systemize it today. Literally pause and just think about that now. Start with a simple automation like an email sequence for repetitive responses or a workflow that routes requests to the right team member automatically. Now, if you do want to go further, then you can consider using that decision tree that basically helps your team resolve these issues without asking you every time. Level 3 is to multiply, essentially enable the business to scale without you. At this stage, your systems are in place, but how do you ensure that your business keeps on growing without needing you in every single decision? So this is where the real business freedom can start to happen, because ultimately when you multiply your knowledge, your systems and your leadership, that's when your business grows without you. So in order to do this, you can start by assigning a knowledge champion, someone in your team who owns the documentation and ensures that new processes are captured. Building a learning ecosystem where knowledge is passed between and different people and it has a flow for the knowledge rather than being hoarded in a silo. And most importantly, set up a feedback loop so your systems can improve over time without needing your constant oversight. Now, to have a really quick win here, you can identify one person in your team who's detail-orientated, enjoys organising information and is really diligent, and just assign them as your knowledge champion. They'll then take the ownership of maintaining the documentation and maybe even training new team members. Over time, this role evolves into a team-wide learning culture where knowledge is shared instead of siloed, and business growth isn't dependent on any single person, including you. You can also decide to assign that ownership of that knowledge manager to different people in different teams. There you have it. In order to get out of the action loop, which is today's biggest productivity killer, we can just simply use the freedom framework and of course the 4 force multiplier approach. Here's the truth about productivity today. Knowledge isn't necessarily the bottleneck anymore, but the implementation is. You now have the exact system that the most productive businesses use to scale without burning out. But let's be honest, most people watching this video may get excited, they may go try everything once, and then get overwhelmed within 2 weeks and then just go right back to being stuck in their ways within the business. But what we have to realize is that this system building is actually a skill. And like any other skill, the fastest way to master it is actually to learn from other people who are doing it every single day. So here's what I would encourage you to do right now. Go to the link in the description and start the free 7-day trial of Waybook. Inside Waybook, you'll get complete access to the exact frameworks, the templates, and the tools that have helped hundreds of business owners transform their operations in just 90 days or less. Don't let another week slip by being trapped in your operations. Start your free trial today and take the first step towards true business freedom. If you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe and maybe check out this other video on how to create a training manual for your team. And until next time, I hope you enjoy some smooth scaling.